Alright guys, Matt from Anytime Towing again. This will be my second video today. I just have a few minutes and a little drive to do, so I figured I would talk about car shipping or auto transport versus the towing. Some of the things that I learned along the way as far as like the differences between the two. I mean, right down from trucks to equipment to insurance. There's quite a bit of difference. Insurance companies look at it a little different as well. In the car shipping, there's a few things to watch out for. One thing I have a pet peeve of is the brokering and some of the tactics those brokers use. I know some of the brokers are good and work well with companies, but so far my experience from the towing side with the broker is the broker's always trying to just keep a customer happy. They're scooping up loads they don't have trucks for or the means to actually move, and then they can either repost it on a load board or trying to find a carrier that can move these things at a much less rate than what they scooped it off the load board for. The rates, if you're looking at load boards, really kind of suck. The load boards tend to be the last of the picking. I know that some people support themselves off the load boards, and if that's a business plan that works for them, that's great. I am not into towing 9 and 10 cars. I generally do 2, 3 at the most, and then some oversized stuff that'll fit on my trailer, or if I can use my flatbed to do it, I will. But generally, I use a truck and trailer to do most of my auto transport. Going back to brokers, on the tow company side, I've had brokers call me to get things out of either storage or off the property of the person who is wanting the car shipped, or I've picked it up at auction houses, other tow companies, all just trying to keep the customer happy. And they end up in my yard for either a few days, or I think we've had a box truck there for 6 months now. I can only imagine what the customer's thinking and where their truck is. But we had one say, it'll be 2 or 3 days before we can get to it and pick it up. And it turned out to be a hell of a lot longer than that. And then we found out what was going on, is the broker had promised the person who wanted the car moved that it would be moved by such and such date and be en route. Well, in order to shut them up, they sent me as the tow company over to the movers, picked up the car, and it really turned into quite a fiasco. And in the end, the broker pointed his finger at me for some scratches that happened on the car that were clearly not my fault. We took pictures of everything. We marked it. We resent it back to the broker. But because our hands had touched it, all of a sudden we were in this mix of a possible insurance claim when it had nothing to do with us. So the scratches were on there before. So either the owner of the car was kind of doing something shady, trying to get some, repairs done that weren't our fault. Either way, we covered our ass. We had pictures. Our bill of ladings were enough, and we were able to circle those scratches on our pictures from the pickup location. So when you're picking up a car, make sure you take pictures of it at the location you're picking it up. Make sure you get some background pictures, stuff like that, because from the people trying to move the car to the brokers to maybe even the carrier who's moving it, they're all going to point the finger at someone else to try to get damage taken care of. I watched the carrier load that onto a 9-car trailer, and quite frankly, the whole setup was kind of sketchy. So it didn't surprise me that there was damage additionally to the car that was not our problem. But anyways, it turned into a broker balancing act, and that happens quite a bit. The brokers take a big percentage off what they get for money. So they'll get on a load board or they'll get a lead on a customer from the internet. You know, you do a car shipping or cheap car shipping search, and you end up with brokers. You'll probably, if you put your information in, you'll probably end up with 30 or 40 phone calls before you know it. Your email's blown up, and really it's quite a pain in the ass. I dealt with it personally for a customer, and that's kind of how I learned kind of what I was doing, or that's how I kind of got started into the transport. Was a customer in a jam, needed something moved across the country, and I slowly kind of figured out that, you know, I couldn't just do it as a tow company. My insurance, I had to make some adjustments, stuff like that, to actually be able to transport that load 3,000 miles versus in my 100 or 250 mile range on my insurance. But anyways, it turns into a shit show with the broker. So I myself, I don't do any broker loads. I don't have to. I run a tow company on the side. Most of my loads are backhauls, so I'll just get on a load board myself and try to find something. If I find that a broker is behind that load, I drop it. I don't care what it costs or what the money is. I just don't deal with brokers. I don't know what's going on. I feel like there's no transparency, and it's just a different game. So the transport is a lot less money as far as per mile goes, as far as the towing. I feel like you could get into transporting cars for a lot less investment, but I think that there's a lot of shady practices within cars that don't run. They say they run, they don't run. Pickup locations at auctions and certain dealerships can be a real pain. Gate passes and all the weird kind of crap that goes on with trying to get these auction cars. Brokers will kind of leave you in the dark on some of these things, get you to do the load, and the next thing you know, you're dealing with $200 in tows in New York, or you're at a pickup location for like 5 hours because there's no organization. So I'm not going to be leaning towards doing 9 and 10 cars and all that kind of stuff for dealerships. I'm more or less just filling backhauls and looking for the oversized stuff that nobody else can do. The shipping versus towing, when you're talking towing, it's totally a different game. I mean, it's usually local. It's usually, you know, within your 50 or 100 miles. Seems like I look at load boards and I get tows in those same ranges, and the load boards have put those prices at like 1/5 of what I get for a tow. So my idea of doing the local transport is just not going to happen. I think the rates for transporters is kind of rough. I think brokers kind of drive those prices down. I think that if the people that were shipping these cars knew what was going on behind closed doors, they'd probably take a different route. 90% of the people they talk to don't even own a truck. So it's kind of tough. When you call a tow company, you're getting a guy there. He's probably got a couple trucks, a guy ready to go. And you're getting what you pay for. You know exactly what you're going to get when you call for a tow, being local. But when you go on car shipping on the internet, you know, playing on some games, playing on some shady practices, I guess, if you're dealing with certain brokers. Like I said, there's some good ones, some bad ones. But as far as my rates go, when I'm doing auto transport, and it's usually long distance, my rates are, you know, half or even less than that of what I would charge for an actual tow. You know, but a lot of that is investment. I mean, I've got $125,000 into my flatbed beach, you know, and with the auto transport, the truck and trailer, you can make your choice on what you want to run there. Obviously, reliability and newer trucks, you're going to have more investment, but it seems like you could get started in auto transport for a lot less investment than being a tow company, especially when it comes to storage and all that other stuff. So some education on the car shipping, and my opinion and my experiences and what I'm watching is that it's not a straightforward kind of game until you get your own customers and you're dealing with your own clientele as far as that goes. No middleman, no dispatchers, no brokers involved. Some guys survive off the brokers. They need brokers. They're not looking for loads when they're trying to take a break. It's not really a break if you're trying to, clock out or sign off duty and you're still looking for loads for yourself. It can be a long, long day and really frustrating with the phone calls you have to make sure the loads are what they are. Make sure that whatever broker you're calling is, that the load isn't double listed somewhere else. That happens a lot. They get on Central Dispatch, they go on this, they go on that, and they're on all sorts of different load boards, and the rates have already been knocked down or whatever, trying to get these cars situated. So, load board stuff is not my cup of tea. I will search out load boards mainly for those problem child, the ones that I see the offers are high. I look at the questions and I try to make sure that I try to get as educated on that load as possible before I even ask my own question. Um, I like the oversized stuff because a lot of guys don't want to deal with it. They can't get them on their multi-car haulers. I have a winch on my trailer, triple axle trailer, so I can basically put 15,000 pounds on that trailer as far as having a box truck or something like that. And I think I have maybe 12 feet that I have leeway on with that trailer. So the transport and the towing, two totally different worlds. What I'm learning in the auto transport industry, or at least some of the Facebooks, I've dealt with some guys at the truck stops, and there are plenty of nice guys out here in the auto transport industry. There's plenty of people trying to change it. I look at Auto Transport Intel. I've dealt with Ty at CTS. It's kind of opened my eyes. I probably would have invested a lot more than what I did if I hadn't talked to Ty, and I feel like I've kind of done the right thing now. As far as making those moves, if you feel like you want to get into the auto shipping, then you definitely want to watch as many Auto Transport Intel videos as you can. Reach out to Jay and Ty, kind of get an idea before you buy, hopefully. Seems like there's a lot of guys out here that have bought trucks and trailers thinking they're going to jump in and then realize that there's a lot more work to it. It's not just owning a truck and trailer. I think there's a lot of people out there doing it under the radar, so it makes the rates kind of iffy. But again, I think that's going to change and evolve over time, just like everything with towing. The industry changes. There's so many new upcoming apps and software to help the owner operator or to help the guy do it himself. So you're not relying on a broker or a dispatcher, or it's helping your dispatch so that you can get more better paying loads, cutting out some of the middleman. I'm looking forward to a lot of these apps that are coming out as far as car shippers on the move. That's going to be a good one. There's a bunch of other ones I don't remember the names of, but they're up and coming, and I think that's going to be a change to what's going on. Now, I said a lot of these guys are supportive, but I've also dealt with a lot of kind of, I don't want to say cold-hearted guys out here that figure they're driving a 9 or 10 car hauler, and the wedge guys aren't real car haulers or not real professional drivers or truckers or all that crap. I have a real hard time with that. I had a guy at a truck stop, at a petrol stop, tell me that I didn't know what I was getting into. I had my truck a 2-car hauler. He had no idea I have heavy wreckers that I, on a regular basis, help his type of business load cars onto trailers that they were told were ops or were in ops. But anyways, he told me I didn't have a place, or I didn't know what I was getting into, and really it just kind of pissed me off. I have a Class A. I have heavy wreckers. I can tow the smallest to the biggest. I can tow that 9 or 10 car hauler loaded with cars. And kind of to tell me I didn't know what I was getting into, or this persona of not being a real car hauler because I'm not hauling a 9 and 10 car truck. Well, let me tell you, you don't see my way, I don't see yours. I don't see the 9 and 10 car guys sitting in a parking lot of the dealers for hours on end, going through all this stuff and having to go through every scratch and every nook and cranny to cover their ass. They're parked in streets, people driving around them. Um, I feel like that's a different world, and they shouldn't be looking at us saying we can't do that, and we don't look at them saying they shouldn't do that. We all have our own niche. If I wanted a 9 or 10 car hauler, I could have one tomorrow. You can buy them used all over the place. But as far as me getting in the auto transport, I do mainly hot rods, special projects, kind of the stuff that no one, that people have struggled to get. Now that I know what I've helped other auto transport guys do, I kind of know what to look for, so I can try to get the rates up on those cars. I don't deal with brokers, so I don't search out Central Dispatch too much. Most of that stuff's brokers. A lot of the stuff I deal with is phone calls. If I see something on U-Ship that looks like it's a little tricky, I look at that. I look at the DAT load boards. I look at freight. I look at a couple different things, but really I look at the oversized loads. I try to deal with people one-on-one and just rule out any middlemen. That way the customer knows they're dealing with me. I'm booking it, I'm loading it, I'm transporting it, and I'm dropping it off. They're dealing with me the whole time. They're not dealing with 3 to 5 different people moving their car around to get it A to B, because that 9 or 10 guy can't get in that parking lot or that area, so, I tow it to them. I think that some of these guys kind of forget all the little extra work they got to deal with as a car hauler and who they use. So needless to say, it kind of gets me a little upset when I hear truckers don't want to be called truckers. They want to be called professional drivers, yet they act like complete assholes and that their shit doesn't stink. I personally think that there's a spot for everybody in this business at all sorts of different levels. I don't care if you got a 1-car trailer, 4-car rollback, 9, 10-car thing. There's a piece of pie in there, and there's a spot in the puzzle that everybody fits. So to have one guy say you're not a professional driver because you're in a wedge or you're in a 2-car flat, which is what I have, and to kind of belittle people because they're taking a different route or whatever. My opinion, if that guy's got numbers, it's inspected, it's legit, it seems like he's doing it safe, mind your own damn business. I tend to look at all trucks all the time. I walk around car haulers. I'm not there to beat them up. I'm there to learn. I look at different things. I look at structures of the machinery. I look at how they've loaded the cars, how they strapped them down. And half these guys are really, some of that crap is pretty sketchy on those trucks. There's cracks in frames. There's all sorts of shit going on. Yet they're the ones pointing fingers at the wedge guys because we're unsafe. You see rollovers all the time. I don't have a wedge. I don't mean to say us wedge guys. The fact is I run a gooseneck. I'm more of a hot shot driver than a big truck. I know about a half a dozen guys that ran big trucks and switched over to hot shot. It's a lot different game. It's a little bit, I don't think you're stuck into staying on certain roads with your big trucks and whatever. And it's easier for us to, unhook and do some personal conveyance or to use our trucks for other things. I probably got 10 different trailers I hook one truck to. So as far as that goes, I think that some of these guys are making opinions and judgments because they're sitting in a bigger truck, rolling in an 18-wheeler. Think that makes them better? It doesn't. I could jump in an 18-wheeler tomorrow if I wanted to. It's my choice not to. I think I got a little more freedom doing what I'm doing. And again, I'm not into it as a transport full time like crazy. It's more or less like the filler during the summer when it's my slow time. I know I've kind of rumbled on with this thing, but I hope that somebody watches this and looks and kind of picks this apart. And I'm sure there's opinions out there that's going to tell me I'm way off on the brokers and whatever, but I'm sorry. My experience from the towing end and from moving cars now for a couple of years that I don't need a broker. I don't need them taking 40% of my load. I don't like the fact that by the time it reaches the guy that's actually driving the truck, that has been, 50% of that's knocked off either by brokers and dispatchers or just the broker. You know, um, there's trucking companies out there starting every day that don't have a truck, and they need their insurance. They got their overhead and all that stuff. But to me, it's like a double dipping system. So unfortunately, I'm not a broker fan. I probably will never be. I suppose it would take the right broker to sway me the right way. And the towing goes, I don't really have to deal with any of that crap. You know, we get phone calls in and we go out, police calls, accident calls. That's the kind of stuff that I deal with on the towing side. A lot of our money is in the storage. You know, we have a lot invested in trucks and equipment, way more than most of the guys do in some of the smaller car hauling operations. I know some of those 9 and 10 things cost, 250, 300,000, just like, a heavy wrecker does. So I'm not saying they don't have it invested, but I think that the persona of some of these guys really has to change. Like I said, the guy that gave me grief in the Petro stop, was kind of like, why am I parking there? My truck is, 53 or 55 feet long with the trailer, and, making a comment about parking with the RVs and all that kind of crap is just, it's not needed, I take up almost as much space as he does, and I don't know if he was an owner-operator or just a driver, but to me it seemed like it wasn't really, seems like he was fairly uneducated when it came to what it was I might be doing. So I got, there's a huge difference between the shipping and the car shipping and the towing. If you guys are just people trying to ship cars and you've landed this video because you were trying to find free car shipping or cheap car shipping or whatever it was your search was, and if this popped up, great. But if you're a car shipper and you're looking to have something moved, maybe do a search on businesses and then find out if they're a brokerage or if they're a carrier, because it might save you a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. It doesn't matter if you put on there no phone calls, no emails, or whatever it is, you're going to get the calls, and you'll get them months later. Somebody will call you and be like, hey, blah, 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 do you still have that load? And that thing was gone, so it's kind of a pain in the ass. Some of these brokers will scoop up what you're asking about on the internet as a lead and put it on a load board and already get things rolling, so you may get a call in the end from some carrier who was linked up through a brokerage, and you don't know who you're talking to after. So just be careful and understand that brokers can really add a few steps to the game that don't need to be needed. I think we tend to get lost in always the point and click and trying to get the cheapest. Cheapest isn't always the best, and unfortunately you're going to learn that. It'll probably be too late for some of these guys with damage to their car before they learn that the person moving it wasn't quite right with their stuff, or that the broker just had all sorts of false promises. We have a truck that I picked up from an auction, an IAA auction last fall. It's now spring. I tried to give him a good deal on storage and this and that. He asked me to move it. I was gonna move it, but when we went and got the truck, it was 1.5 foot over what he said. It was about 3,000 pounds heavier than what he said. It was not at all as he described, but he needed it out of the auction. So I gave him a deal on storage, but my quote for my tow was for a heavy tow, and he kind of tried nickel and dime me on the tow after I just stored it for him for months. So it left a bad taste in my mouth. So right now the truck's sitting, and we have now just started collecting storage. I told him that he had a week to figure it out. He told me, give me a week. We haven't heard from him in 2 months since then. So somebody's truck is sitting in my tow yard because someone had to get it out of the auction yard in order to please the customer. And now that customer probably doesn't even know where their truck is. So this is not something that I like that we have going on, but this is something where somebody dropped the ball and tried taking advantage of us, you know, mistaken kindness for weakness, kind of a thing, you know. I figured I was helping a guy out. Maybe I would get a tow out of there or a few bucks in storage. And what it's turned into is him not wanting to pay because he already got the X amount. He's already been paid to move this truck. And now we have it. And guess what? I don't know if the customer even knows where it is, where his own truck is. Who knows what kind of excuses he's getting from the broker. But this is just a small lesson for, you know, the guys out there that are relying on brokers and false promises and looking for the cheap car shipping. There's no such thing as cheap car shipping. I mean, there is, but you get what you pay for. You might get lucky and you might end up with somebody else who is just not going to be what you need as far as getting that job done. A lot of the oversized jobs I get have already had brokers involved, and by the time I get involved, the customer's pretty upset because they've been working on it for months and been told all sorts of different stuff, and it ends up that they're ended up with nothing. You know, the truck's still sitting there, false promises. Yeah, we'll pick it up tomorrow. Truck sits because they couldn't find the carrier because they don't have their own truck. Anyways, I am getting off the interstate here. I gotta kind of pay more attention to what I'm doing driving. I'm gonna stop this video, and you know, hopefully this is helpful to some of you guys that want to get into the car shipping or are towing already, or just kind of a little bit on the broker side. Anyways, I'm getting off. Over and out.